Giving credit where credit is due, I would like to thank Ed of Aussie50 on YouTube for taking one of these valves apart, allowing me to learn a little bit about what I was getting into on this job. Thanks, Ed. Let's watch. Okay, so here's my dilemma. I have the loader here with the steering valve is leaking. Every time the fluid would warm up, this thing would just dump fluid on my lap. It was pretty bad. So I took it apart, and I see that what had happened was the bearing had blown out because of rust and corrosion and all that, and let water down inside. And eventually it attacked the dust seals and the hydraulic seals, and so everything was all rusted and leaking. So anyway, once I took it apart, you can see here it's in a horizontal position, this valve. Once I took it apart, the one of the intermediate shafts inside dropped to the bottom of the bore, and you can't put it back together that way. You have to put the valve assembly vertical. In order for me to do that, I have to take it out of the machine. I don't want to do that. Anyhow, so I had a wild idea. I need something to prop the shaft up, so the idea I had was to use a piece of dry ice, since dry ice will not contaminate the hydraulic fluid. It decays into carbon dioxide and as a gas, and it just will flow out. Can't use water ice because of course it will leave water in the fluid. You can't do that. So anyway, I went to the local local welding supply store, and I got some dry ice. You see it down here, and they give it to me in a box. And here you can see some of this. Even as cold as it is out here, it's about 20 degrees. It's still condensing water out of the air. So I'm gonna have to kind of act fast here. This little piece of ice is quite cold. So anyhow, this is what I'm going to do. I gotta get the piece of dry ice. It's pretty small. I gotta get a little piece about this big, about the size of the thickness of this assembly. Because the shaft, of course, goes in the middle here. So here we go. Okay, yeah, I've already cleaned all the way around in here, as best I can anyway, with the tools I have available. Gotta get it as clean as I can. There's always going to be just a little bit of something in here. Okay, and here you can see the shaft, it drops. So I've got to get that propped up with this piece of ice. These we're going to go together. Just trying to keep the temperatures the same. There we go. That went right in there. That's good. Pull that back. If this was a warm day, probably wouldn't be able to see. This stuff is crazy. Okay, I'll put that right in there like that. Come on. Wow. I'm gonna have to get a bigger piece. It's a wild idea. It's the first time I've ever tried it, so it's a learning experience. There it is. I'm gonna put it way up high here, if I can. Without burning my finger. doing this with my fingers. That's crazy. Well, that's attempt number 2 that failed. You can see what it does to the fluid? That is cold. Alright, get in there. That might be enough. Nope, I think it fell. Or did it? Yeah, it fell. Okay. Let's see what happens with this. Get frostbite doing that. Whew, my fingers are not liking that. I think I took too long getting that in there. Oh, man. Yeah, I think it's just falling. Yeah, it's too low. You can see the marks where I'm hitting it. One of the problems here is that this thing is getting so cold, this thing is going to shrink. I thought this would be a little easier than it's become. Well, it took about 6 tries, but I got it. Unfortunately, the camera was not on during the one that was successful. But we got the armature in this far, and some time has elapsed now, and the ice has melted, so now I can slide this right in. Just going to engage the shaft. It's not engaged yet because I can turn it. There it is. It's engaged right there. Alright. And then over here, I have the thrust bearing. And I've kept it in order. And there's chamfer here. That's actually a little bit deeper than the chamfer on this side. A little easy to see on this one because you can see there's some discoloration here. And that was facing the outside. So all I have to do with this, set that in there like that. I have an O-ring here. This is the one that came out. This is the one that's going in. This one does look a little bit smaller than this one, but this one definitely feels harder. Aged. Just oil it up a little bit. Alright. Very nice. Now this right here is the gland assembly, and I've put in a new quad seal. I took out an O-ring. The quad seal is a little bit different. If you were to cut the seal in half, it would look like an X. So it's got like 4 grooves in it on all surfaces. There's a groove. So that one's set in nice. The dust seal here hasn't quite been set in properly. So I have to muscle that a little bit. I know you can't see me, but you're going to hear it. Socket and a hammer. There we go. You see the heavy pitting here from the corrosion. I've done quite a bit of wire wheeling and scraping and hoping it's not going to leak. I don't think it's too bad, but it's certainly not like new. Alright, so that goes in there, and this was on the bottom where all the sediment and rust and water were collecting. So I'm actually going to rotate it and keep the fresh side down. So this was all cleaned up too, and that was the entire reason I had to take the armature out, was to clean this. So we twist it, we twist it, we twist it, and we set that in. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Now, this spring clip, as you can see, is like a slinky. 1 turn, 2 turns of a slinky. And this goes in there. We had to basically just start it and work it around. Now the edge of it was originally right here. I guess it doesn't really matter where it goes, but I kind of like to put the edges where they're going to stay clean, so in case you ever have to take it out again. So we'll see what happens here. See if I can get that going. We're going to have to use a screwdriver to get it in there. Why is that last little bit fighting me? Ping! There she goes. She's in. Now we just make sure it seats. Yeah. Alright. Alright. That's cool. Just make sure everything still turns, doesn't bind. That's good. Alright, way over here, I have the instrument panel. And down here. Okay, here goes. Of course, it knocked you over. Gonna open the garage here, so I don't die. Reprime. I'm glad to see it's not leaking yet. Right. It's actually working. It's cool. Okay. It's actually working. Now the hydraulic fluid's thick. It's cold. So, I mean, it's not apt to leak yet. Anyhow. But, no gross leaks, and that's really what I was after here. So I'm really not going to know what happens here until I work this thing really hard again. And I probably won't do that until the next major snowstorm, so. But I could be just around the corner. So anyhow, I can start putting this thing together. I would like to throw a little bit of a sealer on that, or maybe some paint, just because this is all very fresh metal, and will just rust right up again. So that's what we're going to do. Get it all put together. Start using this thing again. I'm happy, at least for now.